tables to talk in the different rounds, I would say so. There are four rounds or something like that until you come to the conclusions. That's very important. And the other thing is having people really interested in talking about that topic, or knowing a little bit more than usual about the specific topic. Otherwise,
and it's difficult to.
I also think coming from different angles, we try to have people from advertising.
That's interesting. But you said that you first have with creatives.
Yeah, try to really mix it up, and technical people, and because then they'll listen to each other because they have different points
perspectives.
of view. Yeah.
Yes, that's one more important ingredient to always ensure diversity. As I said from the start, that we won't make our teams the clients, the researchers, the agency, and so on. We'll mix them.
Yeah, because you want to have a 360.
But this one is, I think, easier in terms of moving from one stage to another than World Cafe, because it starts with something very specific, the observations, and you build on, gradually. So it's like a lift that moves you up from observations to the insight platform.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Florian, I'm going to point you up.
That's why I asked you if you know
Oh. Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. So, the topic is not new, it's pricing again, but there's something new how we approach it this time. If you remember, the past presentations, how we do it, we were always focusing in trying to understand how people, are looking at pricing, comparing prices when they make a decision. And that leads to the fact that there's one important thing missing, and that's price image. That's why we started to work around this topic, but let me explain that step by step. The classical tools like PSM or Conjoint or whatever more interesting version you have there is always putting people in a situation where they really have to look at price, compare, and give answers and show sensitivity. But in fact, depending on the product category, depending on the involvement, and depending on the actual decision-making process, a lot of consumers don't really come to that stage that is simulated by these kind of methods. So they do not really look or compare or whatsoever scrutinize prices. That is why we actually think price image is much more important than it's currently looked at. Firstly, even for those people who at the end really compare before they make decisions, they in the early stage of the decision-making process, price image may play a role in selecting the relevant set at all. So they might exclude some brands just because of the price image without really having a closer look at the price. So even for those people who make really price comparisons before they make a decision, price image is an important dimension in understanding the whole decision funnel. And even more so for people who are rather, we would call it price image buyer, they don't have a closer look. They just go and take their yogurt, take their whatever fast-moving consumer goods, which is normally the case. They don't look at the price. They may actually select the retail store because of the price image of the retail store and then just buy whatever they want. So and therefore it's incredibly important for those kind of fast-moving consumer companies or the retail companies to really understand this decision-driving price image and not try to optimize prices, because that is not what people are looking at. That's why we said where we had closer look up to now was about the explicit price and how people were dealing with that. But we need to also understand the earlier stage of the decision-making process. In connection with this thinking or this identification of the new issue, we had a project for Metro doing exactly that, understanding price image for Metro compared to other retail chains, and that turned out to be extremely helpful for them, also in changing some of their assumptions internally. Now, if we say price image is important, what is price image? Normally, if you measure price image, you measure value for money, right? That's the same thing basically. Price image is value for money in classical terms. Price performance ratio, and if you understand or if you configure price image only as being price value, then you only have two levers. That is, either you make it less expensive or you put more of the value in order to improve price image. But as a matter of fact, we think, or we learned in many studies, that this conceptualization of price image is far from being the price image people have in their mind when they talk about price image of a given company or given brand, retail, or whatsoever, because their price image is much more complex than price versus value. And I will show that by 3 examples. For example, all that print media. We do a lot of print pricing for newspapers and magazines, and what turned out that the price image of a given product does not raise if you put more value in, make more pages to the newspaper, bring more pages to the newspaper, because then people are overwhelmed by the wealth or by the amount of content, and rather use less of it proportionally and have a worse feeling about what they are taking from this purchase, so to say. So the price image actually does not go along with increasing value in this case. Or if you look at retail, we found that the increased frequency of some kind of discount might actually lead to a decrease in sales volume and a decrease in price image, because people feel ripped off in the times where there are no discount or no special deals. And we also found that for example, McDonald's does in Germany a lot of couponing that leads to the fact that, mathematically the average price is going down. The average price for a given burger is going down, so price image should go up. But in fact, now consider the situation: you're standing at the counter, you order your Big Mac menu, and pay the regular price. Now at the next counter, there's another guy coming and say, I have a coupon, pays half the price. That doesn't really improve the price image for the one who is paying the regular price. So there's also a downside of this couponing, but we don't understand this downside if we understand or see price image only as being price and value, because if you only assume that it's consisting of that, price image should go up with this kind of couponing. So we did an own study where we tried to analyze the multidimensional structure of price image to better understand what kind of role does the price image play in these early stages, or even for the only price image buyer throughout the decision-making process. And it turns out that there are much more dimensions than only price and value. And although it's a little bit also dependent on the industry, we found a sample of dimensions that are important to understand why people are saying brand A is a good or a bad price image. So we understood that price image is rather multidimensional, and by looking at those more dimensions, we were much better able to understand what we should be doing beyond lowering the price or raising value. For example, here I have an example from the automotive industry. Now it's easy to read. These are the dimensions of price image for this given brand. And here you have satisfaction compared to competition, whether people are more or less satisfied with those dimensions of the price image, and relevance to the customer behavior. And here, for example, if you it's similar to a satisfaction study and the analysis behind the satisfaction study. Now, if you see where all those drivers are positioned, you, for example, see that the price-performance ratio here is, well, worse than competitor, but less important than, for example, the fairness and transparency of the price structure. If you think about cars, you have the basic price, and you have a lot of extras you can buy, which are, the pricing of them is quite complex. Then you have packages, and you have lines and whatsoever. So it turned out here that fairness and transparency seems to be much more relevant for people's purchase behavior in the realm of the price image. And now if you go one step further and take a look at what does it mean, fairness and transparency, so we are doing a hierarchical driver analysis here. We find that, for example, people were saying this company has a lot of overpriced extras, so maybe the base model is cheap, but if you want to have an air conditioner, you feel like ripped off. You have very inflexible combinations with how you can combine different accessories or whatever. So if you have a certain line, you need, if you have an air conditioner, you need also to have the most expensive radio or something like that. So people really think that's not fair in terms of what amount of money they ask me for this combination that I don't really want. So coming from price image, understanding what are the driving dimensions, we are in the next step where we understand how we can really influence the price image beyond lowering the price and beyond putting in more value. So this turned out to be extremely helpful because it refocuses the management's attention here, because especially in retail, they have only one solution if they think they have a pricing problem. And the only one solution they ever came up with, making discounts. And putting them in such a perspective gives them much more things to do than just giving discounts and maybe even fostering a price war that had not been yet in place. But as you can see here, it's not restricted to retail. You can also use it in